You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. And as always, I apologize for all of my Hebrew pronunciation. I know I'm going to pronounce Hebrew words wrong, so instead of getting annoyed, I give you permission to laugh at how I say things. Today's topic is an overview of Kashrut, Jewish dietary laws. Think of it as the original food code, written long before nutrition labels, gluten-free menus, or TikTok food hacks. The word kosher literally means fit or proper, and it describes food that meets certain rules laid out in the Torah and expanded by rabbinic tradition. If you've ever wondered why some Jews won't eat bacon, or why there's a little U or K on your box of cereal, you're already brushing up against kashrut. It's not about calories or carbs. It's about holiness, identity, and tradition. Some keep it strictly, some loosely, and some not at all. But kashrut has shaped Jewish kitchens for thousands of years. Today, we'll break it down, from cloven hooves to cheeseburgers, with a little humor and a lot of clarity. So what's the foundation of kashrut? The Torah, specifically Leviticus and Deuteronomy, lays out the basic yes and no lists. Land animals must both chew their cud and have split hooves. That's why cows are in, pigs are out. Seafood? Only fish with fins and scales are kosher. So salmon, yes. Shrimp, lobster, or octopus, no. Birds? Most are permitted, but the Torah bans birds of prey. Insects? Big no, though some communities have traditions around kosher locusts, which makes for great trivia at Jewish parties. Then there's the prohibition against eating blood, which is why kosher meat is salted and soaked to remove it. These biblical rules are the backbone. Over time, rabbis added layers, rules about mixing milk and meat, slaughtering animals humanely, and avoiding cross-contamination. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but the core idea is simple: eating with mindfulness, discipline, and a sense of Jewish identity. One of the best-known rules of kashrut is the separation of milk and meat. This comes from the Torah's command, repeated 3 times: do not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Rabbis expanded this into a full system. Don't eat meat and dairy together. Don't cook them together. And don't even use the same utensils or dishes for both. That's why kosher kitchens often have 2 sets of plates, forks, and pots, one for dairy, one for meat. Some even color code them: blue for dairy, red for meat, so no one accidentally makes lasagna in the wrong pan. After eating meat, observant Jews wait hours before having dairy. After dairy, some wait a shorter time before having meat. The result? Kosher life means skipping cheeseburgers, chicken Alfredo, and pepperoni pizza, unless you get clever with vegan cheese or plant-based meat. It may sound extreme, but for many, it becomes second nature. Now let's talk about kosher slaughter, known as shechita. The Torah requires animals to be killed humanely, with as little suffering as possible. A trained ritual slaughterer, called a shokshet, uses a perfectly sharp knife to swiftly cut the animal's throat, severing the major arteries in a single motion. It's quick, precise, and designed to minimize pain. Afterward, the blood is drained, since eating blood is forbidden. Certain fats and nerves are also removed. Some parts of animals, like the sciatic nerve, are avoided entirely, which is why you don't see kosher filet mignon much outside Israel. Critics and defenders debate the method, but within Jewish law, shechita is considered essential to making meat kosher. It's not just about rules, it's about treating animals with respect and acknowledging that eating meat is serious business. In that sense, kashrut makes people pause before treating dinner like just another takeout order. So where do kosher symbols, those little U's, K's, and starbursts, come in? In modern times, especially in the US, kosher certification agencies sprang up to supervise food production. They check factories, ingredients, and processes to make sure everything follows kashrut. The most famous are OU, Orthodox Union, OK, Star K, and Kof K, but there are dozens worldwide. These marks on packaged foods let kosher-keeping families shop without needing a PhD in ingredient sourcing. Fun fact, lots of people who aren't Jewish buy kosher products because they trust the extra oversight. Vegetarians know kosher meat-free items are reliably dairy or pariv, neutral, and some Muslims use kosher as a backup for halal. Even Coca-Cola has a kosher symbol. Without these certifications, keeping kosher in a globalized food system would be nearly impossible. They turn an ancient system into something modern consumers can navigate with a quick glance at a label. A big piece of kashrut is the category called pareve, meaning neutral. Foods that are neither meat nor dairy, like fruits, vegetables, eggs, and fish, are parev, and they can go with either side of the kitchen. That's why salmon can appear at both a dairy brunch with bagels and cream cheese and at a meat dinner with potatoes. Parev is the kosher wildcard, the Switzerland of food categories. But it comes with caveats. If parev food is cooked in a meat pot, it takes on that status. That's why kosher kitchens can feel like culinary gymnastics with careful tracking of what went where. Still, parev keeps the system flexible. Imagine a life without parev. No bagels with lox, no fruit salad after brisket. Parev keeps kosher life livable, even joyful. It's the bridge that makes the system less rigid and more adaptable, proving that Jewish law thought ahead about practical eating. Holidays add extra layers to kashrut. Passover, for example, brings a whole new food code. In addition to regular kosher rules, Jews avoid chametz, leavened bread, and grains. That's why matzah takes center stage, and grocery store aisles suddenly explode with kosher for Passover labels on everything from cake mix to cola. Different traditions add more restrictions. Ashkenazi Jews historically avoid rice, beans, and legumes, called kitniot, while Sephardic Jews usually allow them. Then there's Sukkot with its harvest meals, Hanukkah with oil-fried foods, and Shavuot with its cheesecake feasts. Thank you, dairy side of kashrut. Holidays don't change the core rules, but they layer cultural flavors on top. In this way, kashrut doesn't just regulate what's forbidden, it also inspires creativity. Ask any kosher cook during Passover and they'll tell you, necessity is the mother of matzah pizza. And somehow, it works. But here's the thing, not all Jews observe kashrut the same way. For some, it's strict, no outside food unless certified, separate dish sets, and constant vigilance. For others, it's more cultural. They'll skip pork and shellfish, but won't worry about mixing milk and meat at a restaurant. Some keep kosher only at home, but eat more freely elsewhere. Others don't keep it at all, but still know the basics. Kashrut ends up being both a religious practice and a cultural marker. Ask a Jew about bacon, and you'll likely get a whole essay on identity, tradition, and family practice. The diversity of observance shows kashrut isn't just a rule book. It's a living tradition people navigate in different ways. It shapes Jewish identity across the spectrum, from the most traditional to the most casual. And in its flexibility, it connects Jews to their history, even when practiced differently. So why keep kashrut at all? The Torah doesn't give health or hygiene reasons, though later thinkers tried to explain it that way. Maimonides suggested it promotes discipline and health. Others said it avoids cruelty. But the classic explanation is simple. It's about holiness. By eating differently, Jews make everyday acts, like breakfast or dinner, into moments of spiritual mindfulness. Kashrut creates boundaries that remind Jews of their identity and commitments. Even if you're not thinking lofty thoughts over your sandwich, the rules make you pause, think, and act intentionally. And there's community power too. Shared rules around food mean shared kitchens, shared meals, and a sense of belonging. In a way, kashrut is less about what you can't eat and more about how you eat. It turns eating into an act of connection to God, to tradition, and to community. That's why, even today, kashrut still matters. So that's kashrut in about 10 minutes. The Jewish dietary system that says yes to cows and salmon, no to bacon and shrimp, and absolutely no cheeseburgers. It separates milk and meat, uses special slaughter methods, keeps food labeled and certified, and finds creative workarounds for modern life. It's flexible, sometimes complicated, sometimes funny. 2 sets of forks, anyone? But always meaningful. Some keep it strictly, some loosely, but kashrut has shaped Jewish kitchens and identities for centuries. Thanks for joining me for this whirlwind tour of kashrut. Stick around for the next episode, where we'll explore another Jewish topic in about 10 minutes.